It's amazing to us that you welcome us, even though we are from Great Britain. Thank you for forgiving us for all of the bad things Great Britain has done.
Breaking right now, Coldplay sparking fury amongst their English, white, and middle-class fan base for saying that it's a really terrible thing to be white and English and middle class, and anyone who is white and English and middle class should feel some type of deep shame about it. Now, this has been a complete change in positioning for Coldplay, who, to promote their new album, went into the Rolling Stone magazine and had Chris Martin say, "We're a very, very easy, safe target. We're not going to bite back. We are four white, middle-class men from England. We deserve to take some shit for what our people have done." So effectively, Chris Martin believes that if you're white, if you're middle class, and if you're English, you don't have a right to speak out about anything. And the annoyance factor ratcheted up a little bit this week when on stage in India, Chris Martin decided to take the self-loathing to a whole new level, suggesting that the Indian fans should be so horrified because they are white English people that maybe they should be throwing lots of curry or something up on stage. Watch.
Thank you for coming today, everybody. It's amazing to us that you welcome us, even though we are from Great Britain. Thank you for forgiving us for all of the bad things Great Britain has done and welcoming us to your home.
So William Clouston of the SDP, I'm going to admit this. I'm a big Coldplay fan. I know lots of people say, oh, that means you've got really middle-of-the-road music taste. I love them. I think they're very talented guys. This absolutely puts me off. And I mean, by the way, I know Chris Martin a little bit, or I've at least met him in the past. Very polite, friendly, lovely man. Not like one of those absolute showbiz horrors. However, this makes me turn. I just think it's utterly repulsive that what he's saying is if you're white, English, and middle class, you should just be ashamed. You should just shut up. Because of what? Actions from hundreds and hundreds of years ago? Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, and I sort of agree with you on the music. I think quite often with the arts, you have to separate the art from the artist, okay, and quite often what the artist says. I mean, this is a cretinous, absolutely cretinous thing to say, and it's the sort of thing an ignoramus would say, because it's so unleveled, it's so unbalanced. For a start, right? You can be responsible for what you do and say in life, right, Dan? You can take responsibility for that. You cannot take responsibility for, say, the East India Company that was set up in 1599. You can't take responsibility for that. But in any case, it's unbalanced because it's a sort of self-hatred. We talked about that earlier, didn't we? About white self-hatred. I think white self-hatred is a problem that sort of emanates to a great extent from white progressives. Probably, I don't know if Chris Martin is a progressive on this. He sounds like one, but it's inane. It's just completely unbalanced. I had the pleasure of interviewing Nigel Biggar last year about his book on colonialism, and colonialism is a balance sheet. There's some good and some not so good. I think you've got to be honest and fair about everything. So if he can say, you know, I'm pleased that you've apologized, you know, that you're not gonna, that you've forgiven us for all the bad things we've done, but I want something on the credit side as well. I want to take credit for, you know, philosophy like John Locke and Hobbes, and I want to take credit for in Anglo culture for Adam Smith and David Hume, and later on in technology, railways and hospitals and so on. So he can't, it's a stupid thing to say, and it's embarrassing, but it's not new. Parts of the middle class have been like this for years.
No, it isn't new. That is true. I would argue, though, after the explosion of critical race theory and after Black Lives Matter went mainstream in 2020 following the death of George Floyd, it's definitely gone to a new level. a new level of self-loathing, because I actually think, I mean, look at the 90s, for example, William, and my goodness, I think all the time at the moment, I want to go back to the 90s, I want to go back to Cool Britannia. Okay, not a fan of Tony Blair, but come on, it was a great decade. But we were proud, you know, universally our artists were proud of the Union Jack, were proud of what Britain had given to the world. And that really has changed. And of course, that seeps into such a nasty narrative for our youngsters. But first, the reason you're watching this show is because you know that these days, and we've been discussing it lots at the moment, it's impossible to trust the mainstream media or the so-called fact checkers who claim to patrol social media. And that's for a very good reason, given the Brexit debate, COVID debacle, and demonization of Donald Trump. But I've got the solution for you. Today's sponsor, Ground News, created by a former NASA engineer to provide you with the only safe way to consume the headlines, is going to solve so many of these issues. Go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out for yourself, by the way. But I want to show you this incredible website and app in action. So let's take the recent story we've discussed at lots of Outspoken of Elon Musk's fallout with Nigel Farage over Tommy Robinson, which the left-wing legacy media tried to whip up to destroy all three men, actually. And by looking at Ground News, you can see very clearly that it's collated the 230 sources on this story in one place. But what Ground News instantly shows is how the story is being covered by the media and broken down by whether those media organizations lean to the left or right, illustrated by its biased distribution service, which features on all stories. Then you can scroll down and actually see every article about the topic broken down by the political position or ownership of the publication. So in this case, it shows quite clearly that Fox News gave a fair analysis compared to Mediaite and The Independent, which did not, lambasting the men as morons with big egos without actually looking into why this split happened and how it can be resolved. What's more, Ground News gets to know you personally, providing you with the news stories you're interested in, while also analysing your own biases and coming up with potential blind spots you might not be hearing about because of your media consumption. And look, I know you love the news, that's why you're watching Outspoken, but you don't trust the legacy media. But what Ground News does is give you the tools to understand the truth about what is going on in the world. It is the only way I read the news now, allowing you to see through media bias and manipulative narratives with no more relying on the MSM to define what's really going on for you. So go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. You can subscribe through my link today for 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. And I should say, by the way, Ground News is a really great organization. It is subscriber funded, and by supporting my sponsors like Ground News, you also support my work too. And for less than a Netflix subscription, you can get all the world's news in one place and think for yourself. It really has been a game changer for a news junkie like me. So let me just repeat the address. It is linked in the show notes below, or you can click on the QR code if you're watching on screen. But the address, ground.news/outspoken.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely lethal to bring a whole generation up in shame, which is what they're doing. It's a sort of deranged experiment, I think. You should be proud of what the culture's achieved. You should be honest about its downsides where they exist. But as I say, it's nothing new. Orwell wrote about it in the 30s. You know, what did he say in The Lion and the Unicorn? You know, parts of the intelligentsia would sooner steal from the poor box than stand to attention to the national anthem or sing it. So this is the problem we've had. It's in the culture. In a way, it's part of a free society. But I don't think go down the pub, and people don't think this. But a lot of people are very proud of what this country has achieved. I am. And this is just a pop star embarrassing himself, I think.
Yes, well, that is true, because it never seems to translate when you're actually talking about their actions, William, because Chris Martin has performed at Kensington Palace before. Here he is with Prince Harry, although ironically, I guess Prince Harry would probably share a lot of these self-loathing views about Britain and the British Empire. But I also just sometimes feel with these people, do you really mean what you're saying? Because if so, then you've also got to change some of what you do.
Yeah, but it's a classic luxury belief, isn't it? It doesn't it gives him status. He can feel good about saying, "Oh, aren't we terrible? Isn't it awful?" But actually, there may well be consequences for other people. Usually, people that are further down the social uh, hierarchy than him. So, I think it is a luxury belief. It's just it's embarrassing. I think I'm never ever surprised by this sort of thing, and I think the cure would be just to know a little bit about your own country's history, and stop only looking at negatives. There are incredible. I mean, for a start, a system of democracy, parliamentary democracy, and the rule of law is not a small thing, right? A lot of countries, I mean, not all, but a lot of countries around the world have a system which is based on our rights-based system. And why do they have it? They have it because British culture, in particular English culture, had historically very, very high level of embedded rights. People felt that they had a right to say, to speak their mind very often in the pub. And, it's not to be diminished that. We should be very proud of that. But people like, he's a specialist, isn't he? I mean, he's on a stage singing songs. Good luck to him for that. But don't start getting into analogies like this. He's just out of his depth, Dan.
Yeah, don't start trashing our culture. Don't start trashing our culture. What's interesting, of course, because I guess the SDP doesn't sit quite so comfortably on the left-right spectrum. It seems to me that it's the left that now really struggles when it comes to patriotism. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but I think this is where the terminology. I think all these people are liberals, Dan. They're liberals of various kinds, and they're everywhere. And I defend to the hilt the SDP's heritage as a breakaway from the Labour Party and a part of the left. And why is that? Because I don't want Thames Water owned by foreign entities that milk it, put debt on it, and use it as a sort of cash cow. I'm too patriotic for that. And we should care about it. It's our water, and I want it owned by us. Same with the railways and power. And I want industry rebuilt. And I want people in Britain to have the chance, young people, to have a chance of getting a home to start a family. And I think the housing crisis is caused by two things. Insane levels of immigration, yes, but it's also caused by the deliberate destruction of state sector capacity in housing. And I want to get the state back and build a few houses to help solve those problems. And I think some of the solutions to our problems are what you would call left-wing economics, some of it. We're very pro-market. Most things should be produced by the market, but the state does have a role, and I'll always defend that. My objection is to liberalism on steroids. We've had it with it. Finished with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we can embrace a lot of what you're talking about actually by embracing patriotism. I mean, it's exactly what Trump has done. It's exactly what the MAGA movement has done. Let's talk about the brilliance of our country, the brilliance of our industry, the fact that the Industrial Revolution was all created here, and let's bring it back. But I don't sense much patriotism from the left, and certainly I think the champagne socialists like Chris Martin really sum that up. But William Clouston, it has been so amazing to have you on Outspoken for the first time, leader of the Social Democratic Party. I really hope you come back soon.
Thanks very much. It was very kind of you to invite me, and I've enjoyed it. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, William. We will speak soon. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.